And I'm going to try to pay close attention to people who are still coming in. I think we had about 25 people who said they were going to be here today to talk about Shelley Zavitz's book. And we're going to talk about a few things more than that. First of all, for everybody that's here, if you have, if you're able to be on the screen and be present, that's always helpful. If you want to be incognito and you want to just kind of hang out with just listening, that's okay too. I'm just so happy that you're here. And I think today is a real treat. And for the next 4 weeks, I believe is going to be a real treat for all of you. And, you know, what I found is that 87% of all agents, or we know that 87% of all agents who are licensed today will not be in the business in 5 years. They're going to be gone. And for my goal, I don't want it to be any of you. And there's some key takeaways from this book. There's many takeaways from this book. We're not going to be able to cover them all. But there are key takeaways that while this book is written for your first year in real estate, it applies to any year in your real estate. I would be so hopeful that agents, at least in this office, would latch onto this book who have been in the business, but have been unsuccessful in the business, because this is a base for, it's the foundation for how to build your business. So first of all, I want to introduce myself. My name is Jim Mazziotti. I've been with EXIT. I was a franchise owner in Bend, Oregon for 15 years before supposedly retiring and moving to Dallas, Texas to be with my family. And I'm with EXIT Realty Elite here in Frisco, Texas, and Grapevine, Texas. And so I wanted to bring this to you because I think it's so important. I did this same training last year with Shelley. I grabbed the book, I read it, I called Shelley and I said, will you help me and will you come on? And she was so gracious then, as she is so gracious now. And so let me just do a little bit of an introduction to Shelley. I don't have any notes written down, but Shelley, that's okay. You correct me if I'm wrong and slap me around a little bit. But I think the base of all of this is Shelley was very successful in radio and copywriting, a Canadian who, for whatever, decided, be sure to mute everything, everybody. If you'll mute your microphones, that'd be helpful. She came from Canada, moved to Portland, Oregon, where I lived up until just a year ago, started her business and started from scratch, like maybe some of you have started your business. She knew 4 people, as I recall, in the Portland area, and she was going to be a realtor. She went through the licensing, she started her office and realized that this is hard. It's hard work. And she was good enough to put pencil to paper, put pen to paper, and write a book about her experiences in the first year of her business. And it goes beyond that. I just want to say, without taking too much time, she also has a couple other things that I want you to know about. She has a second book that hopefully you'll be able to see. I don't know if you, let me get this position right. There you go. There you go. That's called Marketing That Moves People. If you love this book that we're covering today and for the next 3 weeks, the following 3 weeks, 4 weeks total, you're going to love this book as well. And I don't know when she finds time to do this, but this book is great. And I got to tell you, Shelley, I love the connection with using musical guests throughout this book. That is so cool. I just wish I would have thought about it when I wrote my book a few years ago, but I'm not nearly as creative as you. So anybody, if you liked what you read and what you're reading in your first 365 days in real estate, you want to get this book too. It goes beyond. The one other thing I want to mention is this. It's called the New Agent 365 program. And I'm going to have Shelley just talk a minute about this as well. I don't know how you put this together. This is put together like a veteran of the business for years and years. This is my 30th year. And again, this is so creative and so well done, and takes anybody who is even thinking about a career in real estate all the way through in building their business and actually showing them that there's 10 points to their business, just like there would be if you were the executive of your own business, because the truth of the matter is you are the executive of your own business. So if you see this, and it's called New Agent 365, I think the website is newagent365.com, if I'm correct.
Yes, that's right.
Write it down, go there. There's some good stuff on there, and I've got to figure out how I want to use this more, and not just to support Shelley, but to take advantage of the people that she's surrounded herself around. And apparently from this book, she's surrounded by some really smart people, not taking anything away from Shelley. But so let's all just welcome Shelley with a thumbs up so she can see that we're all here. We won't clap or we won't scream or anything. So Shelley, thank you so much for being here today. You've been on an incredible journey and you're doing so much right now, but let's just touch a couple things on the book. And if we could, just a few questions, nothing to stump you, but you said the most important person in the story of the 365 days in real estate, the most important person in this story was your coach, was that person. And really you built this around some very important people that we're going to touch on in your business. But talk about the importance about when you got into the business. You know, you discovered a coach, you discovered an accountability partner. Talk about that, because I think the people in this room need to be more than themselves. We need to surround ourselves around people smarter than us and people that will help embrace what we're trying to do. So talk about how the coach in your life made a difference.
Hey, everybody, thumbs up to you too. Thanks for having me here. And I would say it goes back first to when I started in radio. I wanted to be like the best. I have an issue where I want to be the best at everything. I'm working with my therapist on that, but I wanted to be the best writer. And to do that, I had to surround myself with other people that could write really well. So I spent 15 years in broadcasting, and I was like, yes, I am going to be the best, and I want to be top executive, and I'm going to climb, right? And I did do that. So then when I became a real estate agent, the first thing that I noticed was how lonely it is. We are solo. We have to make really big decisions by ourselves and my coach says, she's like, you don't know what you don't know. And until you meet up against it and you get experience around it, it's going to be surprising for you. So who you surround yourself with is a really big deal. And I met her sort of through choosing what brokerage I was going to go with. And I decided that I was willing to pay a higher split to be able to be around people that do the job really, really well. And I split it up into 4 different people because I was like, I can't keep calling the same person with the same problems. I don't want to be the needy friend. And I needed different people to help me with different things. So when I met Lene, who was my coach, to me, I didn't pay her. She was somebody that, like, if I won something or I totally failed, I called her. And then I had a mentor who was running the business that I wanted to run. And I kind of just tried to be around her as much as possible. I did her open houses. I tried to, I almost parked right outside of her office. If she had overflow of anybody that she just didn't want to deal with, or a sign call that she didn't have time for, I wanted to be the guy that she chose, because I wanted to be around her, because I wanted to listen to how she talked to her clients. Because if I wanted to be like her, she was going to be my mentor business. I need to understand what needs to come out of my mouth, right? And how I'm going to prepare my own core value in telling my clients what I'm worth. Mm-hmm. And then the other one was, I'm not a big taker. I like to give back to the industry. So I chose a visionary. I chose somebody who is doing things bigger in our Portland market that I thought was remarkable. And they were giving back in ways. And I was like, if I become really well known in my industry, my local industry as a giver, people will want to work with me. So when I put in my offer, oh, that's Shelley Zavitz. She's a really good human. I want to work with her. So especially when we were competing, right? My name and my reputation means everything. And I furthered that with really getting into getting reviews, but I can talk about that in a second. And then the final thing was, you can say a lot of stuff, but if you don't do it, So I got an accountability partner, and my accountability partner didn't know she was my accountability partner, but I was competing with her to keep myself. And I talk about this in the book, if she's going to finish her exam, I'm going to finish. If she's going to finish her business plan, I'm going to finish, because I am going to be rookie of the year, not you. Because back to I need to be the best situation. But what I found with that was that it gave me the motivation to, on the days when it was grueling, when things weren't happening, when the phone wasn't ringing, when I had a showing and it didn't work out, or maybe a client decided that because I didn't do a good trust triangle, they decided not to work with me. All of that happened in the first year, and it was awful. And to have regular goals, small goals that you have with someone else, and they are doing them and you are doing them, and you're both climbing the same wall, it makes all the difference in the world. So I would say if I picked two, it would be the coach and the accountability partner. And your accountability partner can be anybody. I don't think it should be your managing broker, because they're kind of authoritative over top of you. It should be someone that is of like mind, that can easily call you up and say, hey, did you do your profit and loss statement? Did you learn how to do your finances today? Because you said you were going to do that, And then I have helped other people write books, and I am their accountability partner, and they have to pay me $50 if they didn't finish, the thing that we were going to do. They can afford it. It's not a big thing, or I'm going to donate it to somebody that they don't want me to donate it to. There's lots of fun ways to implement that. This business is grueling. You have to find ways that why you're doing it, and it can't just be about money. If you serve well, the money follows. I promise, like living proof. I had nothing to start with except for maybe like a decent dad joke. And then after that, it was just about doing the work and doing it every day, just a little bit better.
Shelley, you've grown so much in the last year. It can just tell that you have. So I think the point is that you surrounded yourself, you chose an agency, the brokerage that you went to, based on what that agency provided to you and would allow you to provide to those that you served. And it wasn't about the split. I know in my line, what I do, and of course, the exit company, we do a lot with sponsoring people. So I talk to a lot of agents about coming into the company and about, the opportunities in real estate. And so many times it's, well, what's the split? And I think the point is, it doesn't matter what the split is at this point of your career. It matters not, because unless you're making money, a split doesn't matter unless
80% of zero is still zero.
That's right. And
you need people to help you get on the runway and get the plane off. And that isn't cheap. To be honest, our teaching and courses for the exam, once it's kind of, I tell people, that's just half the battle. You just got to get through the exam, because it's after that's when the real learning begins. And who you choose to align with is going to be a make or break. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote Kickstarter as a workbook, because it takes you through 7 levels of are you actually ready to do this job? And a lot of people find that after they get through those questions, they're like, oh yeah, I got a little bit more work to do before I quit the thing that's bringing in money, that's supporting my family, or what have you. So
yeah, exactly. Well, so the takeaway from just what Shelley just said was she surrounded herself with a coach, a mentor, an accountability partner, which I believe is huge. I based some of my training and coaching around accountability. I believe it's so important. And a visionary, having somebody who can see maybe beyond what you're able to see. Sometimes others will believe in you more than you believe in yourself. And having the right visionary is the right person. So can I ask you, you built a referral business in a new city, not knowing anybody. And I think when I teach people, I talk about, you need to have your top 100. Those in the room that I've talked to probably are going, oh yeah, I've heard that before. You need to find your top 100. And those are the people who know you, like you, trust you. You talk about this in the book, just in different words. And I think you did the same thing because you know that you're building a referral business. So talk about how important your top 100 or the people that making the list is. And I believe it's one of the first things you should do. Talk about that a little bit, Shelley.
First, I'll say that the reason why anybody should have a referral business is it's because you want to be making net profit. If all of your money that you make is going towards attracting leads through paying somebody else, it's very hard to be lucrative in the business. There are lots of teams out there that, they put up big scoreboards, but, when it really comes to net profit, they don't make it. So that's the first reason why I personally wanted a referral business. I want to attract people to my business and to me as their trustworthy guide in helping them buy or sell a house, and at the same time be a lucrative business, because I don't want to work forever. I don't want to be that real estate agent that's still working at 80 years old because they can't retire. So to do that, the first thing that you have to do is really look at who's around you. So in the beginning, I had 4 people and 2 of them were medical. So I was like, okay, well, I can't serve everyone. So I need to niche on my messaging and my core value to medical people. And I need to find a way to be in spaces where they are speaking the brand promise that I had come up with of, okay, you and I both have something in common. I'm naturally a nurturer. So are you. You're in the medical field. And I grew my business based on the fact that a doctor and a nurse have a big view of their image. They have a big view of their checks, and everything that I was serving for them had to be in relation to how they view themselves. So I spent probably 3 years just like building and trying to grow my database of the people that I wanted to work with to 100. And it took, I was like, I made it a game. I was like, how many people can I talk to this week? How many conversations can I have? How many dinners can I have? How many people can I meet? And it wasn't about money. I was like, if it's successful, if I'm like 50 people, and if I can figure out a way to have a meaningful one-on-one conversation with somebody with 50 people a week, get out of here. I can do this. And I can tell you at the beginning, it wasn't easy. And there was a lot of rejection. And there was a lot of, oh, well, you can't talk to this hospital because they have relocation services.
Yeah.
Well, that exact same thing that person said to me, I am now the lead referrer. If you type into their Google, like their main machine, my name comes up. Someone sent me a picture of it. So you have to believe in who you want to work with and what your promise is. You have to believe it better and in your core better than anybody, because if you don't believe it, you can't convince somebody else, right? It has to be innate to you. So we talk a lot about, like, people talk about scripts and all of these things. I would really encourage you to look at the sales scripts that people tell you about, but make them your own. It should be your words, your experiences. Like if I have a buyer consultation, I talk about, I try to hit the stories of, I was just like you, especially if they're first-time home buyers. I was shaking when I signed over the escrow. I was so worried, but I can tell you that the reason that you want to buy real estate is because of the equity that you can build with very little money in. You can't buy a 401k and have the same kind of equity build with just 3% down and the leverage that you can get buying a house. I talk about how I'm really high on protection skills, and Your job is to walk through the house. Your job is to make sure it clicks all the boxes that we talk about today. My job is to make sure that I protect you, that when we're in the house, that you don't buy a lemon, or you know what's going to cost you money. I'm going to be that person for you. You tell me it's the house, I will tell you if it's healthy. And, it builds that trust right away, but you have to have those intakes. You have to do the work first ahead of time and lay all the groundwork first. I'm kind of off topic now.
No.
Yes to the 100. I do that. And I'm very focused on them. You don't need a massive database. You need a core group of people who want to talk about you and tell your story. And that's what I talk about in my second book. Marketing That Moves People is about how to have your brand promise so clear that somebody else wants to sing your song. They want to go to soccer and they want to talk about how they were in a showing and they were with you and they saw this thing and you told them not to do it because you were protecting them. Oh, I'm so glad that Shelley's with me. Yeah. That you need to start making those situations. And I think that where we struggle sometimes as an industry as a whole is we're thinking about our checks, we're thinking about that scoreboard, and we get away from, we actually could do a lot better in giving our clients the words to use to refer you. Yeah. You have to teach them how to refer, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's people like Joe Stumpf from By Referral Only who teaches people the language and how to do that. So maybe a name you write down, Joe Stumpf. That's how he makes his living, teaching people how to, and how important referrals are. You talked about scripts, and something that I believe in, and actually some of the people here that are part of this office understand this and know. I talk about scripts, and we actually teach scripts here. We have script training, but what we really work on is what I have called the dissection of scripts, making the scripts yours. Take the scripts, take the words, and then, like you're doing, you make them your own. That's what's important. So you build your business around your words. You have an idea of what to do, but like your book is a guide to how you found success in the business. It's a guide, it's a script. So you're going to have to dissect it to make it work for you. And what I just got from you, Shelley, is that if it's about the money, find something else to do.
Yeah.
Just find something else to do. So if anyone's here that's chasing money, the money comes. But if you're chasing money, you're in the wrong room today. You're just in the wrong place.
Yeah.
And
a profitable business takes 3 years. Any startup business, not in real estate, anywhere. Yeah. You can look, it takes 3 years minimum to be profitable. Yeah. So if you don't have the finances to be able to make it through kind of like a soft 3-year launch, I mean, so we're in the house and you see the thing that you need to be telling your client, but really you're focused on your check and you're like, I really need to get this person under contract. Mm-hmm. I mean, that person's not going to talk about you. You will not have a referral business. It is not possible to think of yourself first and expect someone to refer you. It's impossible.
Super important. And Shelley, we can't talk about all things, but I just want to ask you one other thing. And before I let you go, and thank you for being so gracious for being here. Okay. You talked about problems in business start when there's 3 things. When there's a lack of training, there's a lack of resources, and a lack of motivation. Why don't you talk about that a little? Because I think about this all the time, not just from your book, but reminded when I reread it again, that there's places that have all the training that you could ever have. They have all the resources you could ever have, but there's got to be the motivation to do the business. Talk a little bit about maybe what motivates you. And of course, you want to be the best, right?
Yes, I am the best.
Okay,
that's
so
it.
You are, right?
I'm just kidding.
No, well, if you don't believe it, who the hell else is going to believe it?
Well, I honestly, when it came to real estate, first of all, those 3 things came from managing creative writers and producers. And anytime that our department came up to a problem, I would ask myself, is this because they don't have enough information to do this job? Is it because they're not motivated? I'm not helping them be excited about what they're doing. Is this a behavioral issue? Like what, what is it that's missing that I actually need to talk about, because things come out in different ways. So then when I was basically governing myself in my own business, I was like, okay, I really want this to happen, but it's not happening. I am my own employee. What is the problem? Oh, well, the last 3 transactions, I was working with investors and I didn't understand cap rate. I didn't totally understand 1031 exchanges. I need to go to class. I need to learn more about these things. Or I was in this transaction and I had to deal with a septic and I've never done that. I couldn't even figure out the paperwork. I need to go to school. When it came to motivation, I am motivated by Eliza Richmond. And anytime that I think that I want to do a half-ass job, excuse my language, I think of my friend Eliza, who bought a house. And she bought a house with an agent that did not care, was looking for a check. And she became in a financial situation that could have been avoided. And anytime that I think that I just want to like maybe not check the tax report, or I'm just going to do, I think of the consequence of doing average. And that's sort of that's been what is the consequence of being mediocre today? And I have been like that my whole life, unfortunately. And it drives me to places that I probably like, what is the point of doing something if you're not excelling at it? There are many things that I can't do, like a, one arm push up and things like that. And I'm not motivated to do or learn that because it's not interesting to me, then I really shouldn't be doing it. So if real estate doesn't motivate you, and the idea that you are basically the shepherd of helping somebody in their financial success for not just right now, but for the rest of their life, because how you set them up right now, especially if they're a first-time home buyer, could impact them and their legacy even to their next generation. So if you don't take it seriously, I mean, you're kind of in it for the wrong reasons. So I just think really broad like that. And then when it comes to my own work ethic, I overwork. I'm working on balance right now. Right now I'm like, okay, I'm going to take Wednesdays off. I'm going to decompress. And then when I'm at work, I'm going to be focused. I'm going to do the things. I'm going to do the little things, and I'm going to do the activities I said I was going to do. And that's sort of just how, when it goes off the rails, because it always will and it always does, you just have to recenter. I have several mentors now. I probably have about 10, depending on the thing I'm working on. I'll call one of them. And for instance, yesterday I was having trouble with a listing. I was having trouble with my client who was not able to hear me try and manage their expectations on the list price and all these things. And I called up my person and I was like, here's what's going on. Talk to me about, help me center. And it took about 5 minutes. We talked it out, and there's several people that I call now and they call me. It's reciprocal, So finding that network of people who want to see you succeed, that aren't willing to like take all your money to have you succeed, especially in the beginning, you have to find people that believe in you and want to see you be a business owner. So.
Yeah. And so takeaway is, what is the consequence of being average? Is that what you said? Think of the consequence, all of us.
For everyone, not just you.
Yeah. What is the consequence of you not doing those things that, are necessary, that will actually help you? What class do you need to attend? What webinar do you need to jump on? What book do you need to read to reach out to people? Shelley, I'm taking advantage of you, so I don't want you to have to, spend way too much time with us, because we're going to go very quickly through the first 3 chapters of your book as soon as we say goodbye to you. But how can people get a hold of you? Because I know you're giving and you want to help others grow, because you grow when you help others.
Sure.
You give, you get. It's just the way it is. And how do people get a hold of you?
A lot of people write me on Instagram.
Okay.
They'll DM me. You can email Shelley@shellysavitz.com. I'm not as tight on my email just because I'm on the road a lot. Feel free to text. Lots of people do. My phone number is everywhere. And if you wanted to be a part of the New Agent 365 program, it's 12 missions. You learn from 12 different people how to, put the basics down. And I do live training in the Facebook group, and I have a buyer's agent actually coming on in 2 weeks where she has done 30 million for her team by herself. And I'm like, we should probably talk about how that happened,
Exactly. Yeah.
So.
Fantastic. Well, listen, don't hesitate to reach out to Shelley.
Yes, please do.
And what I would love for all of us to do, and we'll be talking for the next, for this 4-week period of time. She is there and to answer any questions and to help us, and go to the 360, the New Agent 365 site. You've got to check this out. I think, if you're recruiting, if you're an exit agent, and if you're recruiting, this is something that as a gift to everybody that you're recruiting, talking about a career in real estate, this at the very least should be a gift that you gift them to help them with their business. What a beautiful, God, what a beautiful gift to give them, in the book as well, to show them you really want their success. And so, Shelley, you're a real inspiration to me, and I appreciate you so much.
Is it the dad jokes?
Yeah.
Do you want one for the road?
Sure, give us one.
Did you hear about the restaurant on the moon? Yeah, great food, no atmosphere.
Ooh.
Okay, with that, I'm leaving.
Okay. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good luck, everybody. You got this. Just do the work.
Okay.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks so much. All right. She's a real gift, that's for sure. And so I hope going forward, you're going to gain a lot. She's a real deal. She's no phony baloney. She's not charging all kinds of money, although, she's got the books and all that stuff. So let's get busy and let's jump in. Hopefully you can all see my screen. Are you able to see my screen? Say yes. That says your first 360.
Yes.
Yes, great.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So let's get going on this. And you can see here, it says a 5-week mastermind event. When I was in Oregon, we did it in 5. We're going to do it in 4 because I think we can abbreviate it. And if you do your job reading the book, I think we can all get a lot from this. So a lot of people ask, what the heck is a mastermind anyhow? And even me, before I did this a year ago, what exactly is a mastermind? So here's what it is. And here's why you are so important to this mastermind. A mastermind is a group of outcome-focused people who work to solve problems using a specific methodology. Our methodology is Shelley's book. It's a one-time experience or ongoing. We're going to do this 4 weeks. The group is led by a facilitator. That's just me. I'll facilitate it, but I am no better or no worse than anybody in this group. There's no hierarchy. And our goal is to build upon a common good outcome, an achievement for every member. That's what a mastermind is. So if you've ever wondered, should I join this mastermind and exactly what's it going to do? You now know. So our guest was Shelley Zavitz, and from Portland, Oregon. Know that she's a real deal, because here's a few things we all love to have people talk about us and how great we are, right? Here's some of the testimonials I grabbed about her. I can't express how grateful we were to work with Shelley while buying our first home. Shelley is the best of both worlds. She's both fun and comfortable and knowledgeable and assertive. And it goes on, when we toured the home, she made us feel like she was part of this transaction, that she was one of our kids, that she was one of us. Shelley tells it like it is. She's honest, forthright, smart, knowledgeable, and fearless. She told me early on how the process worked, and the sale unfolded exactly as she said it would. I trust her. How would we all like to have this particular testimonial on our website, in our business? Next, Shelley is nothing short of perfect. real estate agent. I'm so grateful to have had her by my side as a first-time home buyer. Shelley takes the time to get to know you, truly understand your needs. And the last one, Shelley understood how valuable our time was when looking for the perfect home. She listened to what we wanted, and more importantly, she found listings that met our criteria. These are some of the testimonials. There are dozens of them. She's done a fabulous job building testimonials. And so we're going to go through this very quickly because we don't have a lot of time to cover the first 3 chapters, and there's so much in there. And I want to hear from you. Please jump in. Do not hesitate to jump in because, as you remember, this is a meeting of a group of people who are trying to solve problems and trying to figure out this business so we can do it better. When we talk about the introduction, it talked about how she came from the broadcast industry to be a real estate agent. And day one, if you read this, hopefully you all have the book. And when you read this, did you get the feeling on day one, all the excitement of a widow at a funeral? Maybe some of you felt that the first day that you went into your new office, when you went into your office, that everybody was there, but there wasn't the excitement that you felt would be there. You know, you go through in Texas 180 hours of classes, you interview brokerages, you find the right brokerage, you walk in excited, and for her, it just wasn't exciting. And maybe some of you have felt that. So I love her subtitles to everything. The title of chapter 1 was "What the Hell Was I Thinking?" or "How I Stumbled Upon My Coach, My Accountability Partner, My Visionary, and My Mentor." And I would hope all of us have had the opportunity to stumble upon a coach, an accountability partner, a visionary, and a mentor. If your office doesn't have one or all of those, try to find a person that you can have lunch with, that you can sit with, that you can exchange stories with, exchange how to do business with. You need to find that person. You can't do this alone. That's why teams are important right now. And I think teams have found their place because they serve as this: the coach, the accountability partner, usually a visionary, and a mentor. But what I will say is you don't have to be on a team. And when you're going to the money, you don't have to give your money away to be on part of a team. If you put the time in, you can do this business. Other things in chapter 1, remember the 3 gifts. A coach, an accountability partner, actually there's more than 3, a visionary and a mentor. The coach, the accountability partner, and a mentor were the 3 big ones. When she was on page 6, when she was in broadcasting, she was a creative director. So she worked with startup radio stations and she moved to the USA with her partner, and radio was just a gig for her. She wanted more than that. And friends said that if there was anyone that would trust, it would be her. And you know what, everyone that's here, there are people who trust you, who know you, and who trust you. That's why building your list is so hugely important, because what I found, what I talk about when talking to newer agents or agents that I have the good fortune to work with, is that those people who know you, if they trust you, they will help you, and you need to reach out to them. You need to ask for their advice. What could I do to be better? I want to be the very best at what I do. How is the trust factor? And if they tell you, you know what, we trust you unconditionally, the question might be for me is, would you work with me? If you were interested in purchasing a property or selling a property, or if you know somebody who is, would you trust me with those people? The most important person in her story was her coach, happened to be the president of the company, misspelled, sorry for the misspelling. And the question that I've always asked, it's kind of funny because there's kind of connections in this book, things that I have done that she does, is she, that coach asked her, how much money do you want to make? So I think that's fitting here. There's 2 things. There's how much money do you want to make, and how much money do you need to make? Those are 2 separate questions. because I try to guide people to make the money, because you got to have money. Unfortunately, we all have to have it, that they have to make in order to live. And then we look to how much do you really want to make? She was up in the Rookie of the Year competition. She found that there was that competition in her office and she went for it. And she said, fear of failure sapped me. There was no way out once she received a handwritten note from her coach. And you can read about that in the book. Her accidental accountability partner, her visionary, page 13, the counsel of her coach, do open houses. A month into open houses, no clients, and the pity party. So you know what, everyone? I've been to my own pity party. I bet you have too. You have no clients. You didn't get the listing. They listed with somebody else down the street, and it opens everything up for a pity party. But you have to look beyond that. You have to find those people going back who trust you and who will work with you. Page 15, don't think about the money. Watch and learn from listening. Out of 11 new agents, only Shelley and her accountability partner showed up. What's it like in your office? What's it like where you're at? We have a number of agents from a number of different companies. So out of the agents in your company, are you the person that shows up? She talks in her book about a sphere, and it is people who know you, trust you, and like you. How about you? If I could ask, let's just cut right from there. Let's talk about your sphere of influence. How do you work your sphere of influence, or do you? Tell me a story of how maybe how your sphere of influence has helped you build your business and be successful. I don't want to pound on you, but does anybody have something about your sphere of influence and how you use it, how you did it, how you built it? Anyone, I'd love to hear from you. Don't leave me hanging.
Hey, Jim, it's Paul. I use a process where I call life mapping. And I just sat down and said, what's my life look like? And it looks like real estate. It looks like music, guitar playing. It looks like history of where I got my education. It looks like my former employment history. It looks like things related to my church involvement. It looks like friends and family. It looks like community where I live and interact with people like dry cleaners and tailors and, you know, whatever. And so I listed all the categories. Then I went through my Rolodex. I've got about 8,000 names in there. I try to take who's just in this immediate area for the most part, which is certainly not that many. And then I would put everybody under the different categories. In some cases, they were under multiple categories. Now I had structure to it. Mm-hmm. And then I would say, okay, now next step is how do I elevate awareness of what I do for a profession to these people that know me as a musician or know me as a fraternity brother or know me as this. And then basically crafted ideas. And then the most important thing, systematically, one person at a time, one scheduled call block at a time, work on it and saying my goal is to reach out and touch 10 people on this list and just keep going through it methodically. And ultimately the messages get out. And next thing you know, you have an identified sphere and you have conveyed to them at least some association with the real estate business.
Yeah, that is put so well, Paul. I haven't heard the term life mapping before. You know, I simply have called it make a list of everybody you know. Life mapping is a fancier way for doing that. The key, Paul, was probably picking up the phone and calling all of those people and asking them how you could serve them and how you could help them and if they would allow you the opportunity to work with them. Picking up the phone. And of course, as Brian Buffini teaches, if anybody does Brian Buffini, doing pop-bys. So actually finding those people and stopping by where they work and what they do and just pop by, not to take, but to offer the assistance to help them and ask them and tell them you would love the opportunity. That's great, Paul. Life mapping. That's a write down kind of a thing to put in your notes. Anybody else? How have you grown your sphere, or how do you plan to do that? Anyone? Isn't it uncomfortable when it's this quiet?
Hey, Jim, yeah, it is uncomfortable. So I'm going to jump in here just real quick because, and maybe state the obvious to me anyhow. This book is great. The training we're offered in this brokerage is fantastic. And the reason I'm here is if I had my sphere that I could give you an example of, I'd yell it out loud and proud. I just don't have that yet.
Okay.
So, it's working on the phone calls, working on the conversations, trying to build whatever relationship. But yeah, I wish I had one. I wish I had a great story. I don't, other than that one I told you in the hallway the other day, and that's a little bit off point. So.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone else before we move on? Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Paul, for that. Let's go ahead and move on. And let's look at chapter 2. She talked about, the wake-up call. And she said, page 18, keep your feet moving. You guys, I think that's great advice. Keep your feet moving. And if you don't, if you gloat, you're going to fail. You have to keep your feet moving. You have to make that call. You have to build that list. You have to knock those doors. You have to call that expired. You have to talk to that person that you can help go from renting to buying. Find those renters and show them the possibilities to ownership. There's so many things we can do to help people. And she talked about facing rejection. So if you don't think, or if you haven't faced rejection, it's probably because you haven't been doing enough in your business. Because if you're working your business, you're going to find rejection. If you knock doors, it's doubtful that anybody is going to kick you off their porch, but they're going to tell you, I'm not interested, or I'm going to live here forever. And if I work with somebody, it wouldn't be you. I mean, you're going to have rejection. You're going to have your friends, family, business associates buy a home, list a home with somebody else. You're going to face rejection, but you have to own it, feel it, and you got to let it go. So if there's a piece of advice today, and because there's been a number of nuggets here, there's another one. Own it, feel it, let it go, and move on. For her, the workday begins at 6 a.m. And we didn't have a chance to talk about, what she does. Takes 8 minutes to look at gratitudes, to look at intentions and priorities, and 2 top things that she wants to get done in a day. If there's anything you could learn today, is prioritize your day the night before or when you get out of bed. What are the 2 things that you want to accomplish today? I want to knock 50 doors, and by God, I'm going to do it, whether it's 105 degrees or whether it's snowing with sleet and ice. I'm going to do 2 things today, and you have to reward yourself when you do that. And I think we all have to figure out what we want in life. And again, I'll tell you, while there's been plenty of money in my 30 years in real estate, what I've gotten more out of this is the people that I've met and the people that I know and that I'm surrounded with. That's what I wanted in life. It's never, for me, it's never been about the money. The money comes, but it's been about the people. So you have to ask yourself, you have to do a self-assessment. What's stopping you? Remember, I asked her about training, resources, motivation. Her motivation was wanting to be the best. Well, what's your motivation? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this business? For a lot of people, there's a lack of work ethic, and there's training, motivation, resource I talked about. She does gratitudes, intentions, and she prioritizes. I have a great list that I got from Tom Ferry that I customized it, that talks about gratitudes, intentions, and goals. I give it, if you just texted me and said, will you provide me with the gratitudes list? I'll provide it to you. It gives you a 30-day plan on what you can do every day. You write it on paper, and it helps you focus on what's important. So remember her leads. You just start writing down names. Paul has life mapping. He wrote down everybody he knows. Then I'm sure he divided it by hot, warm, and cold. Post it where you can see it. It's your pipeline. It's the people that you got to have. Sherry talked about she needed to find a way to be top of mind. I learned about top of mind 40 years ago from working with radio stations in retail business. They talked about, we're going to make you top of mind. You got to spend a bunch of money, but our goal is to make you top of mind. It hasn't changed in 40 years. It's the same. But
Hey, Jim,
yes.
if I may offer also too, a couple items back that related to what you're saying. She said some things I thought were really important. She talked about her work ethic. And one comment about that, just in general, it's not enough. Well, it's definitely not acceptable to not be doing. Knowing isn't doing. But it's not even enough to be doing if you're not doing the right things. And story comes to mind. I promise I'll go quickly here, but one of my favorite classical guitarists is John Williams. John Williams was the son of a professional orchestra caliber musician. And his father taught him early on. He says, you don't have to play the guitar 12 hours a day. He said, I want you to practice 1 hour a day, but I want you to do perfect practice. You practice the right things. And there are certain things that are fundamental to your success. And John Williams had a career of practicing 1 hour a day, and he's one of the most accomplished guitarists in the classical world in the world. So the point here is the beauty of this is through the beautiful coaching that you're getting through Jim, directly and indirectly from Tom Ferry, Brian Buffini, Craig Proctor, and all the things we're doing. You're learning about what the right things are. So two points is you have to do them. Number one, knowing isn't doing. Knowing is useless. It's the biblical reference of putting the lamp under, you don't hide it under a basket. So you've got to actually be doing, and then ask yourself any job that you had. And if you were on the clock, you punch in, you punch out, what do you do during that period? Do you view your real estate job like this? Do you actually look at each day and say, I am going to put in 6 hours today. I'm going to put in 8 hours, and then knowing what you have to do and then actually doing it, and maybe holding yourself accountable or accountability partner. That's probably the biggest thing that I see lacking in those that are struggling in their career. And I think the other thing is she talked about always making herself more valuable. She realized that information that she didn't know, and in part that she was reasonably expected to know, cost a real situation, a real person, a real client, a problem down the road, or some things that happened to them. And as you make yourself more valuable, you attract people like a magnet, because I can tell you 34,000 realtors in this market, probably less than 10% of them are really, really that caliber that they take this seriously, and they on a daily basis improve their knowledge base to be the best they can be. If you do that and you do these other things we're talking about, you can't help but be successful. But you can't just read about it. You can't just sit and listen about it. You have to do something about it. So I'll shut up at this point, but I wanted to emphasize those.
Oh, thanks, Paul. And I think being valuable and showing people that we're valuable is so important, because if you haven't found out already, many people think we're there for a paycheck, and that's all we want is a paycheck. We need to show not only the trust level that we provide, but what we can do to help them be successful in what they're trying to do. Okay. Let's move on. She talked about having to think like a business. And I just love this. It's also in her marketing book, where, we do marketing. We're an accountant. We're a CEO. We're the CFO. We're the sales manager. We're the switchboard operator. We're the administrator. We're the bookkeeper. We're the IT manager. We're a marketer. We're a business manager, and guess what? We do customer service and handle complaints. So we're all these things. This is a business, folks. It's a business. It's not party time. You have to run it like a business. You have to start with a plan. And one of the things I love that I hope you're going to do this week, we'll be covering chapters 4, 5, 6 next week, but create a SWOT. From her book on page 25, she talks about start with a plan. If you don't know where you're going, you can't create a vision or a path to get there. I'm going to Iowa next week. I'm going to be traveling to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I've got to have a map. If I don't know where I'm going, how the heck am I going to get there? So you got to have a map. The SWOT list looks at your strengths. It looks at your weaknesses. It looks at your advantages, and it looks at market threats. Don't look so much at market threats. So many of those, there's nothing you can do about. If you're worried about the first three, write down this week what your strengths are. Write down what your weaknesses are, because you can find a solution for those weaknesses, and find out what your advantage is, because your clients need to know what's the advantage with working with Tom or Sherry or Kim or all of you that are here. So for this week, write down the SWOT. Build the what. This is building what you want, the why and the how. What is it that you want? And why do you want it? One of the exercises I've done when I owned a brokerage was going through the why with the agents that I worked with. And many times people really didn't know their why, and they didn't know how. Page 27 talked about her farm, the 90-day rule. God, I love this so much. What you did 90 days ago will directly influence what you have today. Think of the next 90 days. What can you do that will directly influence what's going on in your life? And she talked about starting the day, gratitude, intentions, priorities, hot, warm list, reviewing her business plan, and then looking at her emails. Then finally, after everything else is done, the paperwork gets done, and she writes a couple personal notes every single day to people that need to hear from you, that need your encouragement, that need your love. It doesn't have to even be about real estate. Look at the social media, look at Facebook, look at all the crap, all the junk on there. There's people where a personal note to them would actually help them so much in their life. Think about how you can help, not just in real estate, but how you can contribute to the rest of the world that you're working in. So for next week, we're going to be doing chapters 3, 4, and 5. And as we wrap up today, what I would just ask is, what thoughts does anybody have about today? Was Shelley good? Was this helpful? And do you see how we might be able to build in the next 4 weeks a better pathway to your success? I'd love for you to open your mics up and speak one way or the other. I'd love to hear from you.
Hey, Jim.
Yes.
Can you put that back up on the SWOT page just so I can write some more stuff down?
Yep.
Thank you.
Your strengths, your weaknesses, your advantages. So, Elle, what you told me today is that you took a course, finished coursework with loans for veterans, right? That gives you a distinct advantage. You know more than probably the average agent now. Now, you might want to go further and secure a designation, the MRP designation from the National Association of Realtors. Look how you can take being a veteran, serving your country, and make it an advantage for you and in helping people. Sorry, I'm picking on you, Elle, but that comes to mind. You told me about that, and so you've taken a step to have an advantage. Anybody else? Talk about what steps have you set forth, or what are your thoughts? I would just love to hear general thoughts before we go. We're right at noon. I don't want to keep you any longer, but I'd sure like to hear from you.
Jim, I don't think there's any better way to pursue success than following success. And when you have somebody that opens a curtain and shows you what they're doing and gives you a roadmap for it, I think it's, if you really want to do it, it's worth paying attention. So I think it was an excellent call, excellent speaker. And then and if you're not doing these things, it really, I think should trigger some soul searching and ask yourself why. But anyways, I think it was a great call. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul. Well, we have a playbook right? If you played any sports ever in your life, you were given a playbook and asked to learn the plays, whatever sport it was in. This is a playbook, and we're going to go through it for the next 4 weeks. And please hang with me. Let's do this together and let's learn together. And I want you to know I'm so appreciative for you being here today. Let's do this again next Thursday, the same time. I'll actually be doing this from someplace in Iowa, but I'll be here with you and for you. And until we meet again, thank you so much for being here today. Have a great day.
Thank you, Jim.
See you.
Thanks, Jim.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jim.
Yep. Bye-bye.